there again. This is a inverter generator of mine, which I have barely really used because I really rarely actually have the instance where I need power outside or somewhere. And yeah, the reason why everything's still kind of a mess is I'm still working on my scooter. The repair kind of turned out to be a lot bigger than I expected, but I'm pretty much almost done and now cleaning up. So, now I have to do some electrical work on the scooter, and I don't really want to do that inside. I kind of want to do that outside because it's a really of a hassle to get the scooter down here into my workshop, and I really only have to like solder one cable, so that's pretty much it. I just want to add a fuse and replace the original fuse system because that's been heavily modified and it doesn't really look safe. So for that, I'm going to need a soldering iron and a generator, of course, so I have power outside somewhere. Now, the issue is this thing will not start anymore. Why? Well, I actually haven't used this thing in like almost 4 or 5 years, and I forgot to drain the carburetor apparently, and also the valve was set to open. So that means gasoline has been pouring all the time into the carburetor, evaporated in the carburetor, and probably has made a nice and oily mess down there. So yeah, of course this thing will not start with a dirty and messed up carburetor. So what's left to do? We have to disassemble the carburetor. It's really easy to get at this one from this generator. You just have to tilt it on its back. Don't even have to drain the gas tank or anything. So yeah, but first of all, let's drain it and see what we find inside. Carburetor is all the way down in there. And well, draining a carburetor is actually fairly easy. You just need something you can pour the gasoline into and a screwdriver. I'm just using the flathead one. It's a little bit easier to get at that screw there with the flathead, since it's one of those screws that will work with both flat or Phillips. Alright, just open the screw, let it drain for a few seconds or so. There's really not a lot of gasoline in there. The valve is already closed, it's up here, there, and that's what I meant that I left open, so that gasoline was always flowing into the carburetor, while this thing was sitting in storage for almost 4 years. See if there's anything still dripping, but no, that was pretty much it. And there, that's what's inside the carburetor. Pretty clean. Usually there you can end up with a really nasty oily mess in there. But yeah, it definitely doesn't smell that good, so of course it's not going to be great. And it has a very yellowish color to it. I'm just going to pour it back into the gas tank, really don't care. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of two-stroke oil in there. Alright, and now, well, we just have to flip this thing on its back, and we can get access to the carburetor. It's super easy to service this generator. This is a bit of a Chinese and cheap thing, so you probably will not have a pure sine wave out of this, pretty much just a square wave. It's an inverter generator, so it's a little bit better than the regular one, since those will just generate something in the realms of 180 to 280 volts, and that's not that good, especially if you put a load on them. This thing will constantly supply with 230 volts, no matter what load you put on it. But yeah, since we have a square wave, you probably cannot use that much devices on it. Your motors and everything will probably be fine. Transformers and other things like that as well. But if you have stuff like switch mode power supplies, it could get a little complicated. They don't really like square wave. Alright, with the generator on its back, you can see it's super clean here. It's been running for maybe 4 hours at maximum. I only had to refill the gas tank once in the total lifetime I had it. And of that pretty much installed. Pretty much brand new. Carburetor's up here, and this is the only screw we have to listen. It to get in there and clean out the carburetor itself and the nozzles. This one is just held on with a 10mm nut screw, so just loosen that. Then we can have a look inside. It's probably going to be really gunked up and dirty, because it's not going to burn that mess of oil that's just accumulated in here and cannot drain or anything. Alright, screw removed, that should be it. The entire carburetor assembly should now slide off, which it does. And the seal has melted. Nice, that's always great. That's a bit annoying. It has completely melted, so the seal they have used has definitely not been designed to handle gasoline. Fucking great. I'm just gonna cut a paper-based seal and put that in there, and that's gonna be good. But yeah, you can see what I was talking about. It has a messy yellow color in it. Pretty easy to clean that up, but yeah. But damn, after 4 years, the seal is already just a liquefied, black, gunky mess. That's not good. Chinesium quality at its best. So, let's clean out the base of the carburetor. Just gonna need some brake cleaner or carb cleaner for that. I'm just gonna use brake cleaner since that's what I have. Spray some in there. Really don't need much, and just wipe it out. There we go, already all nice and clean. So, it even has removed the seal, which is nice. Now let's move on to the carburetor itself. For that I kind of have to disassemble it entirely. I don't know where the fuck the nozzle is. That's a bit odd. Oh, there on the side. Damn, that thing is tiny. The seal, it's kinda still an okay shape, but yeah, definitely best to swap that out. It has melted like partially in one section, so it probably would still work as a seal if you were to put that back in, but it would just not last at all. So I'm just going to use that paper seal I was talking about. Just have to make sure it fits in that groove, and then everything should be fine. Alright. Now to remove the plastic flotation device in there, we're just going to need some tiny pliers, and remove that pin in here. It's usually come out really easy. Then pull this thing out, and you will also have the small valve that's in there. Everything kind of still looks pretty clean, so it's not the worst condition, but yeah, also not very good. Next is to get access to the nozzle, which is the tiny thing there. Yeah, everything's coated in a nice and oily mess, so that's not so nice. But overall, it doesn't look too bad. So, this is a nozzle. This thing is definitely going to be clogged. Oh, you can actually still see light shining through it. Then it's not clogged. That's great. But yeah, I'm just going to clean this thing out anyways, because there's no harm in cleaning it. For that, I actually like to use some copper wire. It makes everything easier. And you can just use some like scrap wire you have lying around and just remove the insulation from it. Alright, so how to clean the nozzle? Well, I have a very thin strand of copper wire here. I just removed the insulation of a piece of scrap wire I had laying around and removed one of the strands in it. Now the thinner this stuff is, the better, but it also can't be too thin because otherwise it will break and it's going to be annoying. And to clean the nozzle, I'm just going to use that thin copper wire and stick that through the nozzle, like so, and just pull it through a few times. And there we can see the hole has gotten much clearer. Kind of hard to show that because the hole is like really super tiny. Well, you get the idea. Alright, wipe the nozzle off with some paper or spare cloth you have. Make sure that you don't get any new dirt in there. That will be really a pain in the ass. And there we go. Now the flotation device, pretty much the same thing. And clean up everything nicely in there. Like so. Just pretty much wipe off everything in here so nothing has that gunky residue left on it. And then spray the rest of the carburetor with like so. Really don't need that much. And wipe off the rest. Now this at least is a super simple carburetor, so there's really not that much to it. With a scooter carburetor you have like multiple valves and multiple nozzles. And you don't want those to get up clogged. With this thing it's really, really simple and straightforward. And I think that should already be it. And yeah, you can see this is the gunky residue that's in there and wasn't there. Also the busted seal didn't help that much. So yeah. And the engine is definitely not gonna burn some gunky mess. There we go. Just gonna spray a little bit more deeper in there. And just leave that. Alright, this is just very simple and easy cleanup. Not gonna bother too much with this carburetor since otherwise it's just not really worth it. It doesn't really have that much parts to it. And the throttle is also really a simple part. So, the nozzle is back in place. Let's put the flotation device back in where it belongs. Make sure you line up that valve there properly. Like so. And stick the rod back in correctly. It's a little bit fiddly, but once you got it, it stays there usually. There we go. Like so. Now I'm going to do the seal, but I'm going to show you that separately. This is a paper seal. It's pretty nice and thick, usually used in machines for hydraulics and whatnot, but can also be used in gasoline engines, so that's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to take the lid of the carburetor, stick that on there, and trace around the outside. Like so, then cut that out, make an intersection for that, and that should be it. Right, the new seal has been cut, has been put into place where it belongs, so it's time to reassemble the carburetor by just putting the nice and cleaned out cap back on, making sure we leave enough room so that you can access it with a screwdriver from the side. Gotta do it at a bit of an angle so the screwdriver can get there actually pretty easy. And then just put the screw back on. Probably should clean this up as well before I do that, since it looks kind of gunky. There we go, much better. Check if I can get there with the screwdriver easily. Yes, I can. Also gonna tighten it, so I don't accidentally spill gasoline everywhere. That would be a real annoyance. Tighten that up. And about here much to do. since, well, again, it's just a carburetor. It's not the most important part that needs any sorts of Newton meters on it. But a tiny bit more shouldn't do harm. So yeah, then let's go ahead and test this thing out. First of all, I'm going to put it back up and make sure that the new seal holds. Probably should. Alright, it seems to be holding just fine. It doesn't appear to leak anywhere. But before I'm going to power it up, I'm just going to take my red cup again, stick that under there, and loosen the screw for the carburetor drain, just so that we have some fuel running through this thing before I actually power it up, since the fuel in the hose maybe also be kind of gunky, and I just want to get all that out, like so. And just leave that to drain a little bit. I think that should be more than enough. The nice thing is that also fills the carburetors, and sometimes it can happen that after you clean the thing out, it will not fill properly at first. But it also makes starting it a lot easier. And the gasoline now looks nice and clean. I'm just gonna pour that back into the tank. So then let's give this thing a go. Alright, so I'm in the parking garage. I can turn this thing on in the night and don't piss anyone off. That's always nice. I've just hooked up a small little light bulb to that. So let's try and start this thing. Turn on the choke and see what we get. That was too fast off the choke, but at least it started. That's nice. So, there we go. Still smokes a lot and runs a little bit uneven, but yeah, that's just because it hasn't been running for years, so what you expect. But yeah, let it run for about 10 minutes now, and it idles out normally and runs smoothly, so everything's fine there. Yay! So that's that thing fixed. Pretty easy.